materials, are you a traditional material user or are you digital?
Now then, I'm actually endeavouring to do the two at the same time. I come very late to digital because I suppose I was fighting against it for ages. And I eventually crumbled and bought an iPad Pro, top of the range, with an Apple Pencil. And so I'm playing around with that, but I'm finding it a bit difficult, being a bit of a Luddite. So at the moment, I'm combining the two. And if I'm in a hurry, I'll draw it by hand and then correct it. And otherwise, if I've got a bit of time, I'm laboriously trying to get my head around the what do you call it? The app Procreate. And it's marvelous. I mean, but sometimes it looks better. Sometimes if it works well on the iPad, I'm really pleased with it. But usually it goes horribly wrong, and it takes me so long to correct it. And I keep on redrawing it. So at the end, I just revert to a bit of paper. But, it's a gradual thing. So at the moment, about 3/4 of my stuff's on paper and a quarter is electronic.
The materials I use are generally the iPad and an Apple Pencil. I use a program called Procreate. I do also do pencil and watercolor, but I find that tends to be like the finished product, and I do a lot of my sketching just digitally because it's so quick to kind of reorder, resize, things like that. I just love that phrase, do you draw things by hand? I do use my hands, but I use an Apple Pencil.
I'm at my desk right now, so I will be able to pick them up. Brushes, of course. This is a go-to thing. I mean, that I found recently in a junk shop for £2. Probably worth about 30 or 40. And then I will use bottles of ink for washes and often for filling in colours. The eco lines I think particularly good because there's no grain in an eco line, whereas these ones, the FWs, they've got quite a lot of grain. And then over here I've got some of these sort of pens, and but I find these bleed out onto the paper quite a lot, so I don't use them very much.
But basically that's what I do. I either draw it in biro or pencil on an A4 and then just scan it. They went for that basically, which is a simple thing. So that's what I do first. I do it like that, and then it becomes that. There's nothing in between that and that really. And so it's basically I would do the pencil, then the ink, and then I put the watercolor on top.
Then I use digital materials unless for some reason specified otherwise, but I am almost never specified otherwise. So it's all, I have a Wacom Cintiq, I still don't know how to pronounce it. I've been using it for, years, but, and I draw with that.
I don't use very much. I use these. I use a, what is this? A Faber and Castell pencil, which I've had for years. And I used to have one with made in West Germany written on it. And then this one is a Rotring art pen. I use one of these brush pens to fill in or to draw with if I'm doing a big drawing. That's about it really. And then so traditional there, pen and paper, and I scan stuff and I clean stuff up in Photoshop. If it's color, I always put the color on in Photoshop because it's just the best. It's cleanest. I love that.
Now I am a digital man and use one of these things. Look, I'm on it. Whoa, infinitely.
So even for roughs?
Yeah. I draw roughs directly onto the digital tablet because I've got folders of like, I don't know, 30 odd folders of ring binders full of old cartoon work, and I was just running out of space. That was one of the reasons to go digital. Another I have discovered is the joy of undo. Catastrophic mistake with watercolor or something, and it's bugger, you have to start all over again. But
well, a bit of both. I love the scratchiness of nibs because I have lots of nibs, which I still use, and love the sort of washiness of watercolor. But then obviously I use to send stuff. It's back online and fiddling with Adobe like everybody, I think. The other thing my dad got me was he was at the Cheshire County Council when they were throwing out nibs, because it was in the days when nibs were supplanted by fountain pens. So it's going back a long way. Fountain pens and biros, and in those days they used to do all the auditing and accounting with a dip pen, and they must have been in the drawers there for decades. And of course there was a big throw out. So he brought me back sort of boxes and boxes of nibs, which I'm still using now because they were just rejects from Cheshire County Council.
This is the paper I use, which comes in a big block, and it's nice and thick, and it holds the ink beautifully on with a black pen line, but also it means you can use the black pen and then put the ink on top. It's all pen, ink, and lots of Tipp-Ex.